You're running as fast as you can. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You've gotten promotions, you've switched jobs for a better salary, you've done everything they told you to do, go to school, get a degree, work hard, be loyal. So why does it feel like you're on a treadmill sprinting just to stay in the same place? Why does a 10% raise feel like it vanishes before it even hits your account? Why does financial freedom feel like a shimmering mirage that only gets farther away the more you chase it? The answer you've been given your whole life is a lie. It's not your fault. You're not lazy. You're not bad with money. You're caught in a system, a sophisticated modern-era system, that is functioning exactly as designed. A system that doesn't necessarily want you to be destitute, but one that has a profound, vested interest in making sure you never become truly, independently wealthy. Some have called this economic slavery. Part 1. The illusion of money. To understand the trap, we first have to understand the bait, and the bait is money itself, but not the physical cash in your wallet. We need to talk about what money really is in the 21st century. For most of human history, money was a thing. A gold coin, a silver bar. It had intrinsic value. You couldn't just create more of it out of thin air. This imposed a natural discipline on economies. But in 1971, something happened that changed the entire game for you, me, and every person on the planet. President Richard Nixon officially took the United States off the gold standard. This meant the US dollar was no longer redeemable for gold. It became a fiat currency. Its value was no longer based on a physical commodity, but purely on faith and trust in the US government. This was the genesis of our modern mystery. It severed the final anchor tying money to something real. Now, money could be created, not just printed, but digitally conjured in virtually unlimited quantities. This was the first and most important twist in our story. Because when you can create money at will, the entire relationship between work, wealth, and value is turned upside down. Part 2. Origins, the rise of debt and inflation. So, what happens in a world of fiat money? The first and most powerful mechanism emerges: inflation. Inflation is often sold as a natural, healthy part of the economy. A little bit is good, they say, but for the average person, inflation is a silent, relentless thief. It's a hidden tax on everyone who holds cash. While you sleep, the value of the money in your bank account is slowly eroding. Your hard-earned savings are melting like an ice cube in the sun. But inflation doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has a partner in crime: debt. In a fiat system, money is created through debt. When you take out a mortgage, the bank doesn't hand you a suitcase of existing cash. It essentially creates new money, digitally, and loans it to you. This system is designed to encourage and necessitate perpetual debt. Think about the biggest purchases of your life: a house, a car, an education. The system is structured so that you almost certainly have to go into debt to afford them. You are born into a world where you immediately have to rent the very money you use to live from institutions that have the power to create it. This is the first layer of the cage. You start your adult life not at zero, but in the negative. Part 3. The rise, financialization, and the asset economy. As the 20th century rolled into the 21st, a new phenomenon took hold: financialization. The economy shifted from producing things like cars, appliances, and machinery to manipulating financial assets like stocks, bonds, and derivatives. This was a seismic shift. Wealth was no longer primarily generated by building a better product. It was generated by the appreciation of financial assets. And who owns the vast majority of these assets? Not you. The data is brutally clear. The vast majority of stocks, bonds, and real estate equity are owned by the wealthiest 10% of the population. For the bottom 90%, their primary asset is their next paycheck. So let's connect the cause and effect. Central banks inject new money into the economy. Where does that money go? It doesn't get dropped from a helicopter evenly over the population. It enters through the financial system. It flows to banks and large corporations, inflating the value of stocks and real estate. This is the core of the mystery. You work hard, you get a paycheck. Your wealth is linear, tied directly to the hours you put in. But the wealth of the asset-owning class is exponential. It grows passively, fueled by the very system that is devaluing your paycheck. You're running on a treadmill while they are riding an escalator, and the speed of the treadmill is determined by the speed of the escalator. Part 4. The breaking point, the 2008 crisis and the Great Acceleration. This fragile system was bound to break, and it did, spectacularly, in 2008. The global financial crisis was the direct result of a debt-fueled bubble. The system cracked under its own weight. And this was the breaking point not just for the economy, but for the social contract. This is where the rules of the game changed openly. The response from governments and central banks was unprecedented. They bailed out the institutions that caused the crisis. And how did they pay for it? They created trillions of dollars out of thin air through a process called quantitative easing, QE. This was the ultimate cheat code. It was like giving the player in a video game an unlimited money glitch. This newly created money saved the financial system from collapse, but it supercharged every single mechanism we've discussed. It made the rich astronomically richer as all that new money flooded into the stock market. It made assets like housing unaffordable for a new generation. It widened the wealth gap to a chasm. The life raft that was sent to save the economy was only big enough for those already on the yacht. Everyone else was left treading water. Part 5, the fallout and failed fixes. In the fallout, people looked for solutions. They were told, get a better education. So a generation plunged into historic levels of student debt. They were told, the gig economy is flexible and empowering. So people traded stable careers for precarious contract work without benefits. Every proposed fix for the individual merely added another layer of debt, risk, and precarity. The system, however, remained unchanged. The fundamental mechanics money creation for asset inflation, the erosion of wages through inflation, the necessity of debt were never addressed. They were, in fact, reinforced. Modern parallels, the pattern repeats. And then came 2020, the pandemic. The pattern repeated itself, but this time on steroids. Governments around the world shut down economies and unleashed the largest wave of money creation in human history. Trillions upon trillions were created. The result? The same playbook, the same outcome, just more extreme. Asset prices, stocks, crypto, real estate went parabolic. But for the average person, this created a cruel paradox. You might have seen your 401k go up slightly, but the cost of food, fuel, and housing exploded. Your daily life got more expensive, while abstract numbers on a screen made the already rich unimaginably richer. This is the modern face of economic slavery. It's not chains and whips. It's the quiet desperation of watching your paycheck lose power. It's the anxiety of knowing that a single medical emergency could bankrupt you. It's the feeling of being a serf in a digital kingdom, paying rent to the lords of finance for your money, your home, and your education. So, where do we go from here? Understanding the problem is the first step to breaking free. Here are 3 fundamental takeaways. Takeaway 1. Shift your mindset from earned income to stored value. Stop thinking of wealth as what you earn per hour. Start thinking of it as what you own. Your labor is a source of cash flow, but that cash is perishable. Your goal must be to convert that perishable cash into durable income-producing assets. Assets that are not devalued by the system, but are inflated by it. This is how you get off the treadmill and onto the escalator. Takeaway 2. Understand that cash is a liability, not an asset. In a fiat system, holding large amounts of cash long-term is a guaranteed way to lose wealth. The system is designed for this. Your emergency fund is necessary, but your long-term savings must be in a form that can withstand or even benefit from the system's money creation. This could be productive businesses, stocks, inflation-protected securities, or essential real estate. This isn't about getting rich quick. It's about not getting poor slowly. Takeaway 3. Financial literacy is your single greatest form of protection. The system relies on your ignorance. It's complicated by design. Your most subversive, powerful act is to understand it. Learn how money is created. Learn how central banks work. Learn how inflation is calculated and how it can be manipulated. Learn about the power of compound interest, both for you and against you. Knowledge is the key to the cage. A warning, however, recognizing this system can lead to anger, cynicism, and despair. That is a trap. The goal is not to complain about the game, but to learn the rules so well you can play it to your advantage. This brings us to an open-ended and perhaps uncomfortable thought. Is this system sustainable? Can an economy built on perpetual debt, endless money printing, and ever-widening inequality continue indefinitely? Or are we simply witnessing the slow-motion unraveling of a 50-year experiment? History suggests that all fiat currencies eventually return to their intrinsic value, zero. The question is not if, but when, and what comes next. This is not the end of the conversation, it is the beginning. Your journey to financial sovereignty starts now. If this resonated with you, I urge you to do 3 things. First, discuss this in the comments. What was the most shocking revelation for you? Let's create a community of the financially aware. Second, read. I've put a list of essential books in the description like The Bitcoin Standard and The Creature from Jekyll Island that will dive deeper into these concepts. Third, and most importantly, take one small step this week. Open an investment account. Read one article about monetary policy. Start a side hustle with the explicit goal of generating asset-buying capital. The system wants you to be passive. It wants you to be a consumer, not a creator. It wants you to be a debtor, not an owner. Your rebellion is to learn, to save, and to invest, to build your own arc for the coming storm. Because in the end, the only way to win a rigged game is to change the game you're playing.